We're good.
Okay, so what we're going to do now is a question period. So if anyone has any questions, you can just present them to any of us at the front there.
Okay, I'll direct this at everyone. I'm a first year living in residence, and I find that in terms of recycling, it's very unclear and confusing and to recycle and get your recycling in the proper area, and then oftentimes we end up throwing everything in the garbage. And then there's also nothing when it comes to organic recycling. I know that's a whole different issue than plastic paper recycling. I was wondering if there's any initiatives or anything being done to improve the residents' recycling.
I can feel that one. I'm also acting as the sustainability assistant to Phil. So I'm working with the sustainability office, and what they're doing right now is they're doing some pilot projects. There's one in the Leeds residence where they put an organic waste disposal, like a little green bin, in each room. And there was one also, I think it was more of the floors initiative. I think there was one on the Renfrew first floor, which is also considered the eco floor, where they had some compost. But then for the waste, I can't tell you. It is a much smarter idea to find out efficient systems to say this is where everything goes. I would say it's important to look at the signage, so students definitely know, because I know when I was in first year that it was like, I wanted to recycle something, but someone had already thrown all their trash in there, so it's like, well, am I going to pick through this first, or am I going to do it that way? So, and then you guys.
Because there was something about, I took a trip to Spain, and I just thought that their waste management was like so well done. Like the signage was clear, there was regular places to put all different types of garbage and stuff like that. So it's like the first kind of thing is having just a good system. There's kind of two aspects of that, like having clear signage, having something that makes sense that people can understand. They kind of do that by putting like a different shape opening on each of the things, or put like a sign or something like that. But still, I think that we need to make more of an effort to like draw attention to how things should be recycled, because you got something like a milk carton that has the plastic thing inside of it. You're like, where does that go? The cardboard is plastic. So there's the instructions that need to be clear, but then also there needs to be like I ended the talk with a cultural aspect to it, where people just need to care. Like people need to realize the understanding, because what happens is all that stuff being put in the same garbage can. It's called contamination, and it's why compost can't be available like in roosters, like on the front line. It has to be behind the counter, because if it's contaminated by a non-compostable thing, then it has to all get thrown in the garbage. So it's definitely an important thing to recognize. But yeah, it just has to, people just gotta care. I think that's the first part.
Yeah, first, I want to confirm before I ask this question that the questions are not, like I said, restricted to just Carleton University. It could be in sustainability or whatever anywhere.
Yeah.
Okay. Before I ask my question, I just want to make a comment based on what you said, what you saw on the screen or whatever. I don't know exactly what country, Russia or Australia somewhere. They have this thing where if you take recyclables and you take it there, you drop it, and then it gives you cash back. So I'm not saying Carleton University should do that, but that's just one of the things you're doing in some other places around the world. And I think we focus too much on sustaining what we have. And one thing I was thinking about during one of my e-core classes is that, can we have a society that's not going to rely on petroleum or oil and gas for energy? And how does this alternative affect the global economy? Because we know one of the reasons why the business people and government have been trying to avoid going away from oil and gas is because it's going to affect the global economy a lot. And that's what happened in 2006, I believe. So we're trying to manage the damage being caused by oil and gas to the environment. Why not look at a different alternative? And how much is it going to cost us to introduce this alternative to the world, and what effect is it going to have on our economy during the transition? So
I can pitch on something. There's a she's a physicist actually by trade, but she's also looking at a economic model, social model. It's called it's like a revolving economy, like a circular economy, I think is what she goes by. And she references this connection to using I think it's something to do with using like, what we have so many plastics and stuff like that. Everything that we have is like sort of renewable already. And like, think about plastic as like a stock or a bond in petroleum. So basically, you want to make more plastic, you can break it down and then melt it and make more plastic out of it, made out of these pellets, and pellets can start being used. So that like, there is a definite way if we start practicing it's like that societal change, different change in your culture of how businesses do things, and noticing that it can be easier instead of taking oil out of the ground to make plastics. It can be easier just to take old plastics and break them down and make new plastics out of them. Like they're already doing that, but they need to do it at a larger scale. And I think if you start doing that, you'd have already a set amount of things and just keep on reusing them. I think hopefully that answers some of your question.
I was going to say you'd really be interested in what they call a post-carbon economy, and like the transition towards that. Like from a lot of what I've read and looked at, a lot of people speculate, as energy becomes more scarce, the economy is going to go down, and there's going to have to be some kind of crashing point, or we're basically going to need to hit rock bottom before we can bounce back. So I think, yes, because we have so much invested in oil, unless they can reverse that, which I heard news that they were going to try and attempt to. Yeah, it's not looking good, but I'm not an expert. I can't really speak too much on it.
Yeah, I remember one of you guys talked about electronic vehicles.
Phil was talking about that with the school investing into more having the majority of their fleet becoming electronic vehicles, like all the trucks that the maintenance people use outside, making them electronic.
How do these electronic vehicles get power?
Well, that's the thing, right? The grid, yeah. They have a charging system. The electronic vehicle, the one that's on campus already, is obviously doing good. As he was saying that they're looking at investing in more, because it was a part of the green fund. So it only came last year. It's a maintenance vehicle that one of the maintenance staff had proposed a green revolving fund idea for. So they have a special charger for the maintenance people, but they don't have them throughout the campus.
Yeah, I understand your explanation. My question basically is that we're trying to go away from, we're trying to avoid the usage of oil and gas because of the damages caused to the society. But at the end of the day, how do we charge the vehicles? You say you use a socket, you use a plug, whatever, to the wall, but how do you get power into that wall? We still use oil and gas.
Yeah.
So what I'm thinking is if there could be, I know there's probably research going on in the States and around the world by different scientists and engineers about different forms of energy such that the reliance on oil and gas is going to be reduced. It's probably going to be for basic needs such as Vaseline, plastics, and also we focus more on how we can recycle all this stuff, and then if we can increase the supply of energy from the solar system, not solar system, but from solar powered engines or whatever, photonics and all this kind of stuff to introduce, to create electricity from various means other than oil and gas or whatever thing that's damaging to the society, such as if we could use the solar system or hydropower or windmills and all this kind of stuff to generate power, and then we know we're causing less havoc to the environment from releasing greenhouse gases, and then while we're trying to reduce that, we can also try to save every other thing we have already. The damage is caused, trying to manage the damage by introducing recycling stuff and educating people more about the effects of our actions.
Okay. Do we have another question from the...
Professor O'Brien, what you were saying about your proposal about the incentive and kind of keeping track of things, I think that's a really good idea, because I feel like people honestly don't care. It's kind of the thing, oh, what does it matter if I recycle this one plastic bottle when all these companies are spewing all this stuff in the air? But then if you throw money in the equation, people's opinions change a lot. I think it'd be really interesting to even expand that kind of research into having some device, like with all the smartphones these days, track your heart rate and stuff, be able to track your entire carbon footprint, everything you do throughout the day, and then come up with some sort of average, and everyone who's below average, maybe some sort of tax break, some sort of thing like that, and you keep trying to bring down society's average, I feel like money is really the only way in our society to motivate people, because we're all like, oh, we're gonna die, it's our kids, our grandparents' problems, people just don't care enough unless you can motivate them somehow.
I agree. You know why it's a tough sell is because below income earners often play the victim card when you try to impose things like that, which is really unfortunate, I find. But it's a little bit like the carbon tax. I mean, that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to say everyone, if you achieve below a certain level, you get rewarded, and if you emit more, you get penalized. And there's just a lot of political resistance for some reason.
I just wanted to find out if the school promotes, or if it's, I don't know if it has like competitions that are aimed at kind of getting students to think about what it is they should be, create ways, like, find a way to make campus more green. Do they have like competitions or like a department that focuses on solely that, to give like people the incentive to think about stuff?
I can address that. Actually, Philip mentioned it right at the beginning, but we have a $1 million green revolving fund. And what that is that I'm on the board that decides actually. But we accept entries, and last year we got 50 or 100. And then the winners get a prize, a cash prize, but they implement the top 3. We implemented 3 last year. One of them was the electric vehicle. One was some kind of energy management system. One was a building retrofit. But it's open to students. And you get recognition.
I have a question for you. What's your name, sir?
Liam O'Brien.
Just, so you're saying that, like, with the electrical thing, that I think we should focus more on, like, industrial size. Like, it's not more about, like, low-income families that are destroying the environment while they're charging their phones and stuff like that. It's more like, look at the big picture, look at this factory using all this fossil fuels, look at this government investing in unsustainable energy. Why is it always we're blaming the people and not the system itself for being insufficient? I think the system should serve the people, not the other way around.
Well, I mean, that's one way to look at it. The other is that consumers create demand, and without demand, there's no industry. So I see what you're saying, but I guess I'm trying to appeal to the everyday consumer, because you're here and you're probably everyday consumers, not industry. Nope, we definitely can't blame industry either. I mean, if you look at the, let's say, energy breakdown, about a third is transportation, a third is residential and commercial buildings, a third is industry. So you have impact on the commercial and residential building directly. Transportation side, which is mostly consumer vehicles, it's not freight, and you can affect industry by reducing your demand for goods and services.
And also, like, when you're saying, like, why isn't industry, why aren't we blaming industry? Why aren't we focusing more on them? By doing that, you're doing what you're doing. When you, I don't like using the idea of consumers. I like, I don't like calling people consumers. I like calling people people. That's what we are. So, like, as people say to those companies, I want you to give me a product that's, I want to buy things and I want to, live my life the way it is or whatever it is, but I want to be a little bit more responsible with my actions. I want to, like, know that I'm not causing any issues with the world I live in by buying a new cell phone. And so if you're saying, like, that the collective action is that I want this kind of product, the industry should follow, because if they don't, they're not going to be an industry anymore. They're not. That's not how it's going to happen. And so I think it's good that when you're questioning industry, I think that's one of the really important parts. Question industry, and you say, I want things to be this way. I want to live like, I would question government. I want to live in a country that focuses on these things. I think the more active we are in that role, the more active the government will be, because they're just reacting to what we tell them to do.
Are there any universities in Canada right now that are like kind of leading models in like sustainability that kind of like, or is it like case to case depending on where you are?
I would say UBC.
Oh, really? I don't know, I was involved with, I forgot to mention that I've been involved in research of specifically dining services at Carleton, and working with both the staff of Aramark, which is the corporate food service provider, certain administrators, and fellow students on how we can make food dining services specifically more sustainable, and question long-running bad habits. But UBC did have the Campus Food Systems Project going on for a bit. No, it was UNBC, Northern British Columbia. So they've been focusing on food sustainability as well. But one that I can speak to is Mount Allison, and there's kind of, this is specific. So they committed to a local food mandate of like having 50% of their food within 5 kilometers, 500 kilometers of the campus or something like that. And that's kind of the model. What's specific about that is it's a small university, and it's also in, Mount Allison is in New Brunswick. It's near the highway, so you can get pretty, so you can, that's kind of a special case. It's conducive to them to take all that on. A larger institution such as Carleton, also with less farms in the immediate area, although there are many. If you guys want to check out the Just Food Farm, it's about 7 minutes out of downtown. So there are smaller universities are able to take those on a lot quicker than the larger ones. There's other variables at play, stuff like that, but check out Mount Allison and other Campus Food Systems Project participants.
Okay. I have a question related more to Carleton University. I know that most of the garbages, or all the garbages outside, there's a bunch of like wasps around them, and it's kind of a turn-off, I guess. People would be more tempted to litter than actually put it in the garbage. And also at my high school here in Ottawa, we recently implemented composting. And it was good at first. People actually kind of wanted to participate. But then as fruit flies and regular flies got involved, then people were just like, you know what, I don't care anymore.
Yeah.
So I think there's a thing of people who actually want to do it, and then once they realize that there's a disadvantage as well, they kind of don't want to do it. So is there anything that Carleton's doing to kind of improve how we dispose of the waste, or kind of like containers that we do?
I can't answer that question exactly because I'm not sure about it. But what I would say is it's like when you recycle certain things and they like they have the flaps on some of the bins where you have to push a little bit harder to get your product in. Those are mechanisms to keep what you're putting in there concealed. Like one of the disasters of living in a small apartment as a student sometimes is that your compost, if you don't empty it regularly, you're gonna get fruit flies, and it starts smelling there as well. It's like, but that's the thing as well. Like you yourself get turned off by your own compost bin while you're trying to do all this stuff. And so at the university level, it's just like you have to find the ways, you have to find those products that are doing it, and coming up with, like, it makes it harder sometimes because people don't want to push their bottle through a flap sometimes. They just rather throw it in something, and that's sort of like a hindrance as well. There's a lot of different problems with it, but I think focusing, even if it's a student initiative, how do we make our university smell less while composting more would be kind of interesting, right? So you gotta like send those ideas out there and get the students involved, and faculty and staff, and get everyone together, because you don't want your university to smell bad, but you also want to compost.
I think you really hit it on the head by saying that there are certain people that care and are dedicated to doing that, so they will go through crowded fruit flies to get there and bear the smell or something like that. But it's a dedication has to lie at other places. I mean, if you mentioned to Philip, hey, like lots of people aren't recycling because there's wasps around a certain place, they'd be like, wasps. We can't do anything about that, but there really is something they can do about that, and the fruit flies too. I mean, we're in an era where we're making, atomic hadron colliders. We got spaceship technology, we've written like prosthetic limbs, we got regenerative technology, nanotechnology and stuff like that. We can make a waste management system that gets rid of fruit flies, right? It's simple task. Someone should take it on.
So this $1 million green fund project thing, if you have a suggestion, can it be as simple as like a paragraph explaining, or is it a detailed design plan with, like, what's the level of complexity of how much thought and you'd have to put into it to submit it?
It's about a page. One thing I will say, having been on the committee, is they do look for, well, revolving fund means that it pays for itself relatively quickly. So keep that in mind, I would say. So sustainable is not enough. Well, environmental sustainability is not enough. They really want the economic sustainability, like 3-4 year payback max.
Do we have any more questions? Comments? Causes for concern? No?
Alright, so I'd like to thank everyone who I'd like to thank Leon, I'd like to thank Wesley, and I'd like to say thank Dylan for coming in and talking today, and Bill wherever he is. It was wonderful. It was great hearing what you guys had to say, and I think we learned a little bit. I think, yeah, like, you know, sustainability has this wide branch of things, and that's the important part to look at. It's like you look at it from so many different angles, and you can relate to yourself in that certain way. So I think it was really good seeing what everyone said, and I think, you know, go home and think about it. Think about sustainability. Maybe make a blog post. Thank you guys for coming out. It was lovely. And then tonight as well, afterwards, we're going down to Mike's place. If you want to come, get a drink, you know, a soda if you don't want to drink, maybe some food, all that stuff. Talk with people. Yeah, you're welcome to come. So thank you.